I want you to think back on a time when you were even younger than you are now, like 3 or 4 years old. When you were that age, I feel like when I think about when I was 3 or 4, I don't really remember much. I feel like when you're that young, you're just going through the day and you're like full speed. I know this now because my son Judah, he's about 3.5 years old. He's about to be 4. And when I spend time with him as his mom, it's so interesting to watch him because he has no concept of time whatsoever. So I can put him in a timeout, or I can be like, hey, Judah, you have 10 minutes until bath time. He's not sitting there looking down at his watch and being like, all right, Mom, cool, 10 minutes. And he's not, especially at that age, thinking of the next thing in the source and the time frame that us as adults, or even you as a student or as a kid, thinks of. When we start getting older, so you guys know this, as you get older, time seems to go by a little bit faster sometimes. As a kid, I feel like when I look back, time was just either you had all the time in the world or time did go a little bit quickly, but you never really kept track of time. As you get older, things start getting put on your plate. And I know this as an adult. My time right now, especially with my family and my job and just everyday life, things start just piling on more and more and more. I want to talk to you guys today about our time with God. And I want to talk about specifically the word time. And I want you guys to take that word away right now and just leave with God. So when I say spending time with God, the first thing you may think of is the word time. You think of hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, and years, right? And when I think of my time with God, I immediately sometimes go to, where am I spending like specific time with God in the day? And I kind of want to propose this idea to you guys to take away the word time, because sometimes we're so obsessed with finding and carving out time within just our day-to-day lives. And sometimes it gets overwhelming. Sometimes I just can't find the time to do anything. So to think of, I need to spend this much time in the Word or this much time in prayer sometimes gets overwhelming. But I want to kind of talk to you guys about what it really means to have time with God, why we do it, how we do it, and what happens from doing that with our walks with God. I want to talk about the why. So the why is going into, why do I need to spend time with God, right? That's the first question that comes into our minds sometimes. As a believer, sometimes I just go on about my life and I'm like, sweet, nothing's going wrong, everything's pretty cool. Haven't really been spending much time with God, so why does it matter? And guys, it eventually catches up with you. We ask that question, why do I need to spend time with God? And the reason is because it is a relationship with God. I'm going to briefly talk about what it means to have a relationship with God. Because if you say that you are a Christ follower, meaning you want to follow God the rest of your life and you believe what He says and He does in your life is for the good, then there needs to be some sort of relationship, right? That's a difference between a fan of Jesus, like they're in the stadiums and they're like, yeah, go Jesus. But being a follower is so different. It's a daily walk. It's a daily commitment to God where you're like, I want to draw near to you, Jesus, and He draws near to you. It's such an amazing thing, and I don't want you guys to miss out on that. So, I want to say this word, here we go, this phrase, It's called DTR. I don't know if you've never heard of it before. It is Define the Relationship. I had this talk with my husband when we were still friends. We've been married for 5 years now. This was 6 years ago when we were just about to start dating. And we were hanging out, spending a lot of time together. We would go eat pizza, and we would go eat ice cream. I guess we just ate all the time. And my husband and I, we would just hang out a lot. And it was kind of getting to the point where we were friends, but we knew we wanted to be something more. The problem was nobody was saying anything. So one night we were watching a movie at his parents' house, and I was sitting there and I was done. I was just like, Brian, my husband, I was saying to him, hey, I just stopped in the middle of the movie we were watching. I was just like, hey, Brian, what are your intentions with me? I don't want to waste your time. I don't think you want to waste my time. And he just stopped right there. He was just like, what? It was such an awkward and just quiet moment, but it was so good. And I'll tell you why. Because we were able to sit and talk about our relationship in that moment. We wanted to define the relationship. Because in that moment, I wanted to know, hey, is this going to be a commitment moving forward or not? Because I don't want to waste your time. You probably don't want to waste my time. And I think about that sometimes with our relationship with Jesus. Like if he was to come into the room right now and be right next to me and he'd be like, hey, Kristen, how do you want to define this relationship? Because you say that you want to love me and walk with me and be my disciple, but you don't spend any time with me at all. And you just go day to day saying like, yeah, I'm a Christian, or yeah, I go to church once a week. And Jesus is like, I want and desire a relationship with you. It takes time. And that was something that I have had to learn with my relationships here, and I know my relationship with God. Another really cool analogy that I was thinking of when you are spending time with someone and creating that relationship is a best friend. So say that you came up to me and you're like, hey, Kristen, who's your best friend? And I was like, oh, my best friend, her name's Amanda. And you're like, awesome, like, cool, where is Amanda? Where is she? Well, I don't know. I see her kind of sometimes. And you're like, okay, so what is she like? What's her family like? What's her interests? Do you know anything about her? And what if I just sat there and was like, no, yeah, she's just my best friend, and we talk here and there, but yeah, it's just one of those things. You would think that's so weird, and you would be like, you guys are not best friends, and I wouldn't even think you guys are friends. It's the same kind of thing, you guys. To have a relationship with God means spending that time with Him, putting Him as the first priority before anything else happens. And it's not easy. It takes time, it takes effort, and a lot of the times it takes ourselves to make that step, right? And so we talked about the why, and now I want to talk about the how. So I want to be careful with this one, because I'm not going to give you guys like a special formula, like this is how you do it. There are just things that I believe draw us closer to God. Reading the Bible is a huge way of spending time with Him. Prayer, that's an amazing gift that we have. I put down community, like going to church during the week, going to Elevate on Wednesdays, finding some sort of group to dive into, having devotional time. There are podcasts, you guys. There's worship music. There's so many things where we can tune into God. Sometimes that's really hard because we have so much available to us, and God is fighting for our attention. And so that time can sometimes be really hard to do. The last thing I want to end on is this. We also have an amazing opportunity here at Elevate called the Discipleship Experience, or the DX program. what's really cool about this program is if you feel like you want to take kind of like the next step in your relationship with God, where you maybe need a little bit of help creating those habits of spending time with God, first of all, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, and there's nothing wrong with trying to create a habit. Because what's amazing about our walks with God is He knows that we're not perfect, and we have a community around us to be able to help guide us along the way of where we need to go, especially in regards to time, you guys, because I know you guys have a lot on your plates. I have a lot on my plate, and sometimes we just need that guidance. And the DX program that we have for you guys, if you haven't done it already, is a 40+ days devotional where you're able to dive in with a partner or partners and have a coach along with you to be able to make this more of a daily habit for you. Our hope, especially as a staff, is for you guys to not only create a habit of integrating God into your daily walk, but for something to stir in you and to be waking up in the morning and you just going right to your time with God. Those days where I wake up and I'm like hungry for the word and hungry for prayer and to just seek God out, those are the days where even if all else fails in my life that day, I can fall back on that foundation that I set at the beginning and that priority that I set with God. My hope and prayer for you guys is spending time with God does not become a checklist. Take away time spending and you're left with God. You just need to be with God. That time is important, but just being with God is all He desires of you today. I really hope that this was encouraging and just be able to steer you in the right direction. And like I said, ask us if you ever need help with guiding you in the right direction for spending more time with God.